reveals where we trust God the most. So if I come to him and I say, hey, you know what? Everything's in God's hands. I trust God with this. It's all taken care of. Okay? What I'm demonstrating to you is there's no fear. I don't fear losing that friend, or I don't fear losing that thing in my life. You know? And so the thing is, what we fear reveals where we trust God the most. Let's move to the next one. Okay, so let's ask ourselves, I'm not trusting God with what? What are you not trusting God with, young people? What are you in fear of? What's your fear? If that was your blank, what would you put in the blank? I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand and say, hey, I fear whatever. I'm not asking that. But what is it? What would you put on that line? Think about what you would put on that line. Because what you fear demonstrates where you trust God the most or not. Let's move to the next slide. Now we're going to talk about what's facing. We're going to be facing the what-ifs of fear. So let's move on. Okay, so here's the first thing. We're going to acknowledge your fear and choose to trust God. Okay, young people? So that blank is very important. So whatever you think you're going to put on that blank, nobody's going to look at it. This is yours. That's why we gave you the blanks, so you can put them on there. But here's the thing. You got to acknowledge what that fear is first. Because if you acknowledge that fear, okay, you got that right there, you got that what right there? And when that what is there, choose to trust God. Say, okay, God, here's my what. Here's what I fear. For me, it may be the fear of this new relationship. Where's it going to go? How's it going to work? I don't know. Is it going to go one way? Is it going to go the other way? I don't know. But there could be a fear in that. So whatever I fear, I have to say, okay, now, here's my fear, right? And I choose to trust God with it. So I put my fear and say, okay, God, you've got this. Whatever it is, you've got it. And here's the thing. If this, I'm just using this paper as an example, but if this is your fear, if this is your fear of losing your loved one, if this is the fear of rejection, if this is the fear of the unknown, here's the deal. Imagine this is an altar. Say, okay, God, here's my fear. You have it. Now, if I walk over here and I'm doing life, I'm talking to Becca over here. Where's my fear? Where's my fear?
With God.
It's over here, isn't it? So I'm not walking in, I'm trusting God because I've put my fear here and then I walk away. But you know what a lot of us end up doing? Here's what a lot of us do. Hey God, take my fear. Take it, deal with it. I give it to you, God, and then we come over and talk to Becca. But where's the fear at? I'm still holding it in. Because we never really released it here. You see what I'm saying? That's the big key. That's when you learn to, that's when you choose to trust God to say, okay, God, here's my fear. I'm not dealing with it no more. And then I can come over and say, hi, Rebecca, without fear. I'm just using her because she's right here. You see what I'm saying? But you get what I'm trying to say. Fear is over here, not with me. And you know what? You know what's really, really cool? Let's take it a step further. If this was really the altar, it would be like me coming over and saying, okay, God, you take my fear, nail it to the cross with Jesus Christ, and then walk away. Because my fear is now at the cross of Jesus Christ. You see what I'm saying? Because Jesus did not give us a spirit of fear, but of a sound mind, right? So let's move on. Let's look at the next thing. Let's look at this scripture in Psalms, where David says, "My slanderers pursue me all day long. Many are attacking me in their pride. When I am afraid, I will trust in you, in God, whose word I praise. In God I trust. I will not be afraid. What can mortal man do to me?" Let me tell you something, young people. When you get that scripture, here's the thing. When that scripture becomes life to you, check this out. I will trust in you. In God, whose word I praise. In God I trust. I will not be afraid. Now that's a cool statement right there, but here's the deal. Here's where the really cool statement comes in. What can mortal man do to me? When you give God that fear and you say, "Okay, God, I want to trust you," all that fear goes away, and you're able to turn around and you're able to walk in life without fear. And when you do, it doesn't matter what somebody in the hallway is going to say about you and your relationship. It doesn't matter what somebody's going to say around the church if they see you outside doing something you shouldn't be doing. Or if you don't listen to Pastor Damon or whatever it is. You can walk in life and you can say, "You know what? What can man do? So what they gossip about me in school? So what? My fear is on the cross." You see what? Are you getting this, young people? We're going to quit living in fear. We've already quit making excuses. We've already quit complaining. Now we're quitting living in fear. So let's move to the next one. Here's the thing. Seek the Lord until He takes away your fears. Here's the deal. God ain't going to do it all at once. I'm going to tell you that from experience. God ain't going to do it all at once. It's a stepping process. You've got to take one step at a time. Okay? First step, maybe coming up to the altar tonight and saying, "Okay, God, I give you my fear." But then you may go home and not feel any difference. So you got to keep praying. You got to keep trusting. You got to keep seeking the Lord until He takes that away. Because here's the deal. I'm going to tell you this. It's like this. He's looking for young people that's going to say, "You know what? I'm going to seek the Lord over and over and over and over again until He works in my life. I'm not going to give up." There have been so many people that have given up on God just because it didn't happen the moment they asked. My dad taught me this. I'd say, I'd go to the store. Now here's the way I used to think as a kid. Y'all know I was a big Star Wars fan. When I was a kid, I wanted every Star Wars action figure there was. Every vehicle, everything. I wanted the lightsaber. You know what my lightsaber ended up being? A bicycle handle with a broomstick and spray painted it red, and then I was Vader. Yeah. My Vader mask was a motorcycle helmet.
Okay.
It was a makeshift. But you know what my dad taught me? One year for Christmas, I wanted all these action figures. I said, "Dad, I want them. I want Luke Skywalker. I want Darth Vader. I want Obi-Wan. I want all these action figures." You got to realize I'm young. I'm not the old guy that I am now. Okay? I was a little kid going, "I want it. I want it now." My dad's like, "Not now. You're not ready. You're not ready." I'm like, "But Dad, I want it. I want it now." Not now. What I didn't realize was he was trying to get me out of the store so that he could do his Christmas shop. So I'm sitting there, "I want it now, I want it now, I want it now, I want that one right there. At least give me that one." the G.I. Joe. They got all the G.I. Joe figures. I want all the Star Wars figures. Because Star Wars means a lot to me. And you know what? Come Christmas time, there was no Star Wars action figures around my house. I was like, man, that was a boring Christmas. Until I went to Grandma and Grandpa's house. There was the Millennium Falcon, there was the X-Wing fighter, there was all these action figures shoved in a shoebox. I'm talking all these action figures. Then there was this big Darth Vader case that I could put all my action figures in. I was like, dude, I'm so cool now. And you know what was really funny? My dad bought all that stuff when he tried to get me out of the store. And he shipped it to Grandma's because I was complaining so much. He's like, we're going to ruin Christmas for him. He's not ready for all that stuff. And you know what? You know what's so funny? Today, I'll get to your question in a minute. I think I have maybe one or two of those action figures left. All 72, and I only have one or two left. They got played with, they got broke, they got tore up. I don't have them no more. You know, there's another place in the scripture where Paul says, when I was a child, I spake as a child, but when I grew up, I put away childish things. Now, I still like Star Wars, but I don't go home and play with action figures. You see what I'm saying? I watch the movies, I talk about, we and stuff like that, but the thing is, I had to seek the Lord until things happen. And where I'm going with this is, my dad in that story was like the Lord. I wanted something, but he's like, not right now. You're not ready for it. Because here's the deal, sometimes when you want it, you then get greedy and you want more. It's that old saying, if you give a mouse a cookie, she's going to want the milk too. And the thing is, it happens with the Lord all the time. Because if the Lord just did everything just like that, we'd be a bunch of greedy Christians. Hey, God, heal my grandmother. Boom, grandma gets healed. Yay, okay. Now heal this one, heal this one, heal this one. But there's no learning on my end, because every time I speak to God, He does it just like that. There's no labor involved. There's no waiting involved. There's no testing of my faith involved. That's why this series is such an awesome series to follow up Fearless with, because listen to me. How many of you remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? When we talked about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their faith was tested by fire. Literally, they were thrown into fire for their faith. And the thing is, what really gets me about that is they had to wait upon the Lord. They were ready. They were ready, irregardless of what was going to happen. They were like, I'm not bowing down to your God, because you know what? I know what my God's going to do. They stood fearlessly because they got this concept down. They waited upon the Lord. They've been tested. They prayed. They read they didn't even have a Bible to read, but they knew that they served the Lord. They knew what they were, and they kept doing something until God did something. They kept saying, I'm not going to bow down. I'm not going to bow down. I'm not going to bow down. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do it. They drew the line and said, no, no, no. And you know what? You know what? They walked out of the fire unharmed, unburned, because God saw them through. Let's move to the next one. I'm almost done, guys. Listen to this. I sought the Lord, and He answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. Now this is David talking. Let me tell you what's going on in these particular scriptures. Is David sitting in his throne room. He's in his throne room. Everything's gone crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. He's got armies coming against him from all different areas. He's got his own people turning against him. He's had a son rape his sister, and all this mess is happening in his life. And he's sitting there going, God, I'm fearful. And he sought the Lord. He sought the Lord, and he answered me, and he delivered me from my fears. And David rose up one final time, fearless before the Lord. Even though he had sinned, he had slept with Bathsheba, he had murdered a man, he had lied about it, he had covered all this stuff up. Now all this stuff's coming against him. God delivered him from all his fears. Remember, he's the same guy we talked about in Fearless that went up against the giant. Fearlessly went against the giant. But all of that was gone at this point in David's life. And he had all this fear. This army is going to take me over. This army is coming to take all the wives from my kingdom. This one's coming to destroy my temple. This one's doing this. And then you have the uprising within the people itself. So he's very fearful. Let's move to the next one. Let's look at this statement by John Wesley. This is a very good statement. I have never known more than 15 minutes of anxiety or fear. Whenever I feel fearful emotions overtaking me, I just close my eyes and thank God that He is still on the throne, reigning over everything, and I take comfort in His control over all things, or over all the affairs of my life. Now, I think that is a good statement, young people. Especially if you walk into school these days. Got everything seeming like it's coming against you. If you just take a few minutes and say, okay, God, you're still on the throne. You're still God. Doesn't matter if my school's trying to take you out. You're still on the throne. You're still there. And you have complete control of everything in my life. Okay? Let's move to the next one. Here's another scripture in Isaiah 26:3. You will keep in perfect peace. You will keep in perfect peace him whose mind is steadfast because he trusts in you. Now, that's very key, because if you want peace in your life, you got to trust in the Lord. He's going to give you peace, but you got to have a mind that is steadfast, a mind that's not wavering. Steadfast, I know what I know, and I'm not going to budge off of that. Because here's the deal: if you're not steadfast, anybody can say anything. It goes into your mind and starts cycling, and then you process it. But if it goes against God, you need to, I'm steadfast in this. It ain't happening. You ain't going to tell me something that's not true. You see what I'm saying? If you're steadfast in your mind and you trust in the Lord, you're going to have peace in your life. Move to the next slide, please. And I want to end tonight by saying this. We quit complaining. We quit making excuses. Who's the young people that are ready to quit living in fear? Quit living in the fear of not being able to say something about the Lord. Being able to stand in and say, you know what, I'm going to stand for God no matter what. That's why I'm so happy some of the young people in this youth group are here. And I see how they serve the Lord, and they strive to do the right thing. There's some of you that aren't quite all the way